All right. Well, one of the things that you find funny is when you're growing up really poor, like stealing food is not a crime, right? It's just not a crime. It's so, and people are like, Isaac, I disagree, and I'm sure the sheriff's office would probably disagree, but like I remember, like being a young man. Now we lived in downtown Flint, so we were Stewart and DuPont, and that's down. Anybody knows the area? That's pretty rough. It looks like a bomb's gone off down there now. So, anyways, there was a 7-Eleven on the corner, right? And so my mom had been gone 3-4 days, and I don't know what the street rate is now, but back in the day, the fact that I know this information is probably sad, but when you're selling your food stamps, 50 cents on a dollar for drugs to money switch, right? So for every dollar, you got 50 cents in drugs, and that's how it switch out, right? And so I remember I had seen this white, and they used to come in these packets, right? And they were different colors, like Monopoly money, right?
Okay.
And so I remember I was 8, so I was like, right? And I'm going into the store, and my mom was too embarrassed to use the chit, right?
Oh.
So I go in there, and this guy is in this fur coat, in this fur hat, and his hat's all kicked sideways. He's this beautiful woman, and he's got this bag. He's got this basket full of like ribs and pork loin and ground beef. I mean, to the brim, right? He's like, "Oh, you can go ahead of me, son." 'Cause I had my milk, right? I had a gallon of milk, which was like, you're doing this thing with it.
Yeah.
And I go up there. Now my mom wouldn't go in the store, right?
Yeah.
And so they're putting the stuff on there. And the lady's like, "How old are you?" And I was like, 13. And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "My mom's right outside the door. I'm just getting milk, She said, "Get your money out." So I pulled out. And as I did, I learned back. And this guy pulls out a wad of cash. It's like,
oh, wow.
what we called a knot back in the day, right? And he opens it up, and he's got the same colored money, white food stamps.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, wait a minute, I know this dude, right? And I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking to myself, that's mine. Like, that's mine. He's over there eating ribs. And I remember just chucking like those 3, you got to cut. I remember at 8 years old, I was just, God, Mom, going out there. I'm like, this dude's eating like a king, right? I'm like, Mom, you got to make some changes around here. I'm like, I hate processed meat. And